Take the guesswork out of gourmet. Playhouse Spices gives you a leg up weapon in the kitchen. Playhouse Spices elevates your cooking with gourmet, handcrafted blends made with clean, healthy ingredients. Explore exciting flavors and become a masterful home chef. Visit PlayhouseSpices.com and use code TODD for 20% off your first order over $50. Playhouse Spices. Seek, explore, taste. That's PlayhouseSpices.com.
Looking for a knife that's more than just metal? The Rainy Forge handcrafts blades in a real coal forge, the way they were meant to be made. Every knife is meticulously crafted, hair-popping sharp, and built to last a lifetime. From hunting to cooking, we've got a blade for you. Affordable heirloom quality. Visit therainyforgeblacksmith.com and click Buy a Knife to get started. The Rainy Forge, built with tradition, ready for your adventure.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You have tuned in to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I am your host, the one and only Todd Huff. Hope you had a great weekend, my friends. It's good to be here. Got a lot of stuff in the stack of stuff, which we will get to in due course here, my friends. If you want to see what's in the stack of stuff, you're welcome to check that out on our website, ToddHuffShow.com. Just go to the stack. Again, that's a hat tip to the late, great Rush Limbaugh. He used to have the physical stack of stuff. We, of course, have a digital stack of stuff. All right, that being said, where do we want to go today? There's a couple things vying for my attention here today. First, this was the subject of today's Todd Talk. Do you know that coyotes, the folks who help people illegally cross into this country, at least that's what they used to do, now they are reportedly helping people who illegally crossed into the country illegally cross out of the country? That's in the news. We'll talk about that. I've got just absolute dismay within the Democrat Party. And by the way, I'll say this. We're back streaming the program on Rumble here. If you see my eyes are red and you might see that they are a little watery, that's because of allergies, my friends. I haven't been crying here at the beginning of the program, though sometimes the news makes me want to cry. That is not what's happening here behind the scenes. So, lots of stuff to get to regarding the Democrat Party. And, I might talk... we don't do themes on this program, but I will say this. We have recently, I found myself talking about the walkaway movement from the Democrat Party quite a bit. And I might speak to that a little bit because those of you who are Democrats, rank and file, and I know that there's conservatives who disagree with me on this. By the way, they'd be wrong. But there are many rank and file Democrats who have much, much more in common with me, with other limited government conservatives, libertarians, that they could possibly have in common with the radical leftists running the Democrat Party. So I might do a little bit talking about that. And it's not that Democrats are walking away from their party. Your party has walked away from you. Your party has walked away from America. So that's the direction we're headed here today, my friends. And so let's get started. Before I do that and jump right in, though, let me tell you a little bit about Kenai Fish. Kenai Fish is a sponsor, a partner of this program. They're a family-owned company that brings you the absolute best in wild-caught Alaskan seafood. We're talking salmon straight from the world-famous Kenai and Castle Loft rivers, sockeye, coho, and king salmon. I used to work with a girl who said that the word was salmon. Just FYI. But it's salmon. Or they also have halibut from the Gulf of Alaska, which should not be confused with the Gulf of America. Mild, sweet, and perfect for grilling baking, or even air frying. And don't forget their shellfish, my friends. They've got king crabs, snow crabs, scallops, a whole lot more. It's all sustainably harvested, and it is vacuum sealed for freshness, shipped via next day air right to your door. It doesn't matter where you are in this great country. You can get fresh seafood from Kenai Fish. They care about quality, and friends, I know you do as well, especially if you're listening to this program. So you need to go to KenaiFish.com, Kenai fish.com. Use promo code Todd. You will save 15% on your order. That's Kenai fish.com, KenaiFish.com. My friends, you and your family and your taste buds will certainly thank me later. All right, so let's start here today. Let's talk about what we did on today's Todd Talk. Now, let me say this off the top. The Todd Talk, you can listen to these on our website, toddfshow.com. It's listed there as just under the Todd Talks, shockingly. But you can listen to these. These are 60-second features, I think is what they're called. These air on radio stations. Some stations air the Todd Talks that don't air our full program yet. Some stations air both. You can also catch these on social media. But these are just short 60-second bits of commentary. And I talked about this where I want to start today. Sometimes we'll talk about the topics of the Todd Talk on here. Sometimes we don't even mention them at all. But today I'm going to, because I think we want to get to some additional context here, because it goes to show just how committed the left is to not solving the problems that were easily solvable. So let us get here. Did I just copy the wrong? I might have copied the wrong clip here. Because there's two stories. The other part of the story is the budget required to secure the southern border is 0.2% of the total cost of illegal immigration. 0.2%, which is remarkable. I hit the wrong link. Here we go. Coyotes, this is, what are we doing here? Breitbart is the subject, or the source of this article. Coyotes are smuggling migrants out of the United States. Just let that sink in for a moment. Remember, a mere, 6 months to a year ago, we were being told the only way to solve the issue of illegal immigration was if we passed a law. Congress had to pass some massive law that gave a bunch of money to a bunch of things. That was the only way that we were told that illegal immigration could be stopped. The president, his hands were tied, and I was on this program screaming. Even though we don't scream, I was trying my darndest to speak to those out there who have sense, because many of you, of course, you have sense by listening to this program. Many people out there still have sense, but they're given information that is completely fake, erroneous, made up, incomplete, whatever, misleading. And so because of that, they make choices and they come to conclusions that are not accurate because they're given the wrong information. You can have the correct formula all day, but if someone gives you the wrong numbers to input into the formula, you're going to get the wrong answer every single time. And that's what happens when you listen to these leftists. Folks, I remember going through this. I said, without a doubt, there is a point that Congress needs to do something legislatively, but there are plenty of laws on the books, and there are plenty of things within the power, the scope of the President of the United States, as we've seen Trump do, that absolutely secured the border in literally, weeks. Weeks. This is an issue that had been running rampant for years. Definitely the 4 years of the Biden administration, but you could say going back to the late 80s. This was a problem in the 80s. Ronald Reagan, as I've talked about on this program before, who I admire tremendously, he made a deal with the Democrats, and the deal was, we'll give amnesty to people who are here. This was 40-some years ago now, roughly 40 years ago. And in exchange, we'll secure the southern border. That part of the equation never happened, though. The amnesty was provided, but the security of the border was never done. And so we basically went all the way up until Trump's first term, when the border had started to become an issue that someone in government was actually trying to fix. That was build the wall and all of that sort of stuff. and all the opposition Trump ran into as it pertained to that, and of course the claims of xenophobia and racism and all this sort of stuff, which is typically what happens. But this is what was going on in 2016 all the way until Trump walked out of the White House in January of 2021. And since that point in time, the Biden administration, hear me say this as clearly and as straightforward as I know how, the Biden administration took every action possible to make our border porous and open. They did absolutely nothing. Hear me say this. They did nothing to make it stronger. They did everything to make it weaker. They compromised our security. They didn't care the risks, the dangers, the threats, all of that stuff that happens, that we happen to face, that Americans face because of this. They don't care. They did not care. And they ignored this. They did the things that Trump had done. Remember that short period of time when Trump was president, those 4 years, from 2017 to 2021, President Trump secured the border more than had been done in a long, long time. And what was Biden's first steps when he got into office? His first steps were to make those things, those actions that Trump took, he basically overruled them. He executed all sorts of executive orders to undo the things that Trump had done to help secure or to slow illegal immigration coming across our southern border. And then we were told the only way to fix it, of course, the problem was created by the left. This is a typical thing. Government creates problems, especially when it's under the leadership and direction of the radical left. They create a problem. They tell you that they are uniquely positioned to now solve the problem that didn't exist until they came into office. That is the case with illegal immigration. The border had been much more secured in Trump's administration than in any other administration in recent history. Biden took everything that Trump did to secure the border, and he did the opposite. He took cues from George Costanza in the office, and he did the opposite, right? Jerry told George in that episode, if everything you do is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right. And George really took a hold of that advice. And so he started doing the opposite of everything. And in George's case, he began to see some, what George would consider benefits. In our case, Biden did the opposite of Trump, and by doing the opposite of Trump, we got the opposite result, which instead of having a more secure border, we had a less secure border, a much, much, much less secure border. And so that was the problem we were ushered into under the leadership of Joseph Robinette Bribery in his term in office. Then they told us, they, the media heads, they, the Democrat Party, they, the radical leftists, the people who run the 7 pillars of propaganda, they told us the only way to now solve that problem was to pass some piece of legislation. And if we didn't do it, it was because Trump didn't want to solve the problem. Republicans are to blame, blah, blah, blah. That's what happened. This was not that long ago. This was within a year or so. And this has proven that it is 100% a lie, and they knew it. It's not just that they were wrong. Listen, there are times when people are just wrong. There are rare, ever so rare occasions that I'm wrong on this program. But being wrong and being intentionally wrong or deceitful are not the same thing. And they knew how the border improved under Trump. They, the Democrat Party, they, the media, they, the 7 pillars of propaganda. They knew that. They did not want us to know that. They did not want their Democrat voting base to know that. And so they hid it. They lied. They deceived. They did all this stuff to avoid having to acknowledge that Trump was significantly better on border security. It is beyond any argumentation whatsoever right now to suggest that Biden was somehow better on the border, Democrats are better on border security, is beyond insane and delusional at this particular point. It is so flipped. The script is so flipped that people are now paying. Let this sink in. They are paying to be smuggled out of the country instead of to be smuggled into the country by coyotes. Here's what the article says. A growing number of illegal migrants, are smuggling themselves out of the United States to avoid legal penalties of government deportations, according to multiple witnesses. I've been a journalist for more than 25 years, but I never thought I would see this. Paquetes de retorno. That's the Spanish way of saying you're going to basically pay to go back home, said Alfredo Corchado, an American journalist in Texas and Mexico and an executive editor at the Puente News Collaborative. On March 26th, he told an audience at the Council on Foreign Relations, quote, "Coyotes are now offering packages where migrant people can go back home. If you want to go back home, or you want to go back to Honduras, or maybe you don't want to go back to Honduras because it's too dangerous, or you don't want to go to Guatemala, but maybe you want to go to Costa Rica." And so they're offering these smuggling packages where you can just go back home. Not all of them are taking it. I mean, many are. If migrants, that's the end of his quote, going back to the article here. If migrants are deported by the United States government, now this is the important part. This is the why. This is the why behind what I just read to you. The why behind why someone would pay, as we're going to find out in this article, maybe $10,000 to be smuggled out of this country back into the countries maybe where they came from originally, or maybe another Central American country, South American country, that's maybe not their home country, but that's not the United States because of what is happening. So, if they are deported by the United States government, they are separated from their families and detained in crowded jails, sometimes for many weeks. Once legally deported, emphasis on legally, migrants cannot visit for 10 years or longer, even when their relatives remain in the United States. They also lose possessions and easy access to their bank accounts. Those are all consequences of being deported by the United States government. And so instead of risking it here in the country by staying here, they're actually paying. And listen, I'm not excited about this like this is a good thing, right? These coyotes these are some wicked dudes. I'm just saying the script is flipped so much that if you just think about this, if I would have come on this program a year ago when we were arguing about illegal immigration, and I would have said to you, if I would have said in a year from now, the coyotes are going to be paid not to bring people into America, but to take people out, I would have been mocked and laughed at. I would have been ridiculed. And maybe understandably so, but that's how far the script has been flipped and how little time. I'm amazed. I'm not so much amazed at what Trump has done. I think he was very clear on what his intentions were. I'm much more amazed at how quickly we've been able to see results. That just goes to show how little we were doing things that had any sense on the border. It wasn't just on the border, though. It's also on the economy. But this is important to point out. And I mentioned here, if you read down in the article, I'll read a couple. I want to get to how much they pay for this. Haitians are self-deporting right now because they don't want the worst thing, because the government does not send them back to Haiti immediately. Jeff Lamore, an American businessman in Albertville, Alabama, told Breitbart News on Friday. Many Haitians moved to Albertville for jobs once held by Americans in the chicken slaughterhouses. They got work permits from Biden's deputies, but are now losing them to Trump's pro-American policies. Lemur added, their self-deporting industry with coyotes, it has become $1 million industry over here now. You got those guys that are going from Indiana, from Alabama, in those vans where they're smuggling people to New Mexico, to border states. They're making a ton of money. Talking about the coyotes here, if they go to deposit money at the bank, it's going to raise a red flag. You know, I had a gentleman a couple of days ago trying to buy a car with cash, straight cash. This is a quote, he just don't know what to do with it because he has a lot of cash from the shuttle industry. Smugglers charge them $10,000 per head because a lot of people that are working are saving their money, Lamore told 1819news.com. A lot of people are going back to Chile, where they were living before Biden opened the border. So now you got a mass exodus. We talk about self-deportation. Trump has talked about self-deportation, but it appears that some are not self-deporting. Instead, they are deporting themselves with the assistance of coyotes, paying them apparently $10,000 per head. More to talk about here with this in a moment, my friends. Really quickly, though, I want to tell you that we have a early bird, I guess, lifetime membership to be a founding member of our membership program called the Inner Circle. It's only $99 for a lifetime membership. That's going to get you access to some bonus content, behind-the-scenes updates, some video chats, a whole bunch of content if you become a member, a lifetime member of the Inner Circle. It's only $99. I'm looking for a small group to help shape and form this community. If you're interested in learning more, if you want to join, you can text the word join to 317-210-2830. Text the word join to 317-210-2830, or you can visit toddhuffshow.com/join. That's toddhuffshow.com/join. All right. So, continuing on here. So that's the first thing. We've got things have switched, things have swayed so far in the direction of sense and sensibility returning to the way that things work in America. We've now gotten to a point where illegal aliens are paying to not come into the country, but to be removed from the country by coyotes, because doing so, getting out of here without being deported by the government, actually gives them an open door to come back in the future. They don't lose property. They still maintain access to their bank accounts. I went through those reasons why. If you're watching on video and you see me moving my head around here, I'm looking at my laptop to get to the next the next article I want to reference here in our program. But so we've got things that are we've seen vast improvements. 94% reduction in the number of people coming across the borders illegally when you compare February of 2025 with February of 2024. I mean, this is unbelievably and just incredible how quickly this has come. This has become an issue. Remember what they told us. The media, the Democrat Party, the 7 pillars of propaganda, they told us this was impossible, that this could never be accomplished, that we needed legislation in order to see anything meaningful happen along our southern borders. It is important to note that they were not only that they were wrong, which they were clearly wrong, as they are often wrong about so much. In fact, it reminds me of a Reagan quote where he said it's just that Democrats are wrong about so many things that just aren't so. But this is what happens when sense returns to our government. And it's been so long, and it's been abandoned and ignored. Common sense and reason and logic have been abandoned for so long that just having a lot of it hit the scene quickly. So I should say a lot of sense hit it for a short period of time. Instantaneous, massive changes. On top of that, and I got to take a break here, I want to talk about the cost of securing the border. The cost of securing the border. They told us that was going to be much different than it really was. We'll get to that, my friends, in due course. I have to take a break, though. Quick time out. You're listening here to the home of conservative, not bitter talk. I am your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Looking for a knife that's more than just metal? The Rainy Forge handcrafts blades in a real coal forge, the way they were meant to be made. Every knife is meticulously crafted, hair-popping sharp, and built to last a lifetime. From hunting to cooking, we've got a blade for you. Affordable heirloom quality. Visit therainyforgeblacksmith.com and click Buy a Knife to get started. The Rainy Forge, built with tradition, ready for your adventure.
Seeking natural solutions for your health and wellness? Look no further than Garden Root Remedy. We offer handcrafted herbal tinctures, salves, teas, and more made with only the highest quality organic herbs. We provide personalized consultations to help you find the perfect herbal remedy for your specific needs. Experience the power of nature's healing touch. Visit Garden Root Remedy online at gardenrootremedy.com. That's gardenrootremedy.com. Rooted in nature, blooming with wellness.
Tired of store-bought produce? Ever dreamed of growing your own healthy food but worried about space? Exo Hydroponics is a perfect solution. Exo Hydroponics is a family-owned business run by a mother and daughter team. Their innovative Exo Tower lets you grow up to 28 plants indoors or out, using less than 2 square feet. Visit exotowers.com today and start your journey to growing fresh organic food at home. That's exotowers.com.
Welcome back, my friends. Here we are, segment 2 of the program. I want to pick up where we left off last segment, which is talking about the cost of illegal immigration. Here's a headline from frontpagemag.com. Trump secured border for only 0.2% of the cost of the border crisis. Just let that sink in for a moment. Remember when the people who wanted to excuse illegal immigration at all cost, they wanted to say that Biden couldn't do anything about it. They wanted to say that it was all in the hands of Congress. Republicans didn't want to secure the border. Trump was encouraging Republicans not to support the border bill because it would solve a problem. All that stuff. Remember that. Remember when they said, even before that. See, it's interesting because I said probably not quite a year ago, but I remember coming on this program and saying, we have won the issue of illegal immigration. We won the argument. Let me say it that way. We won the argument on illegal immigration. I said we just hadn't won the issue yet because the politicians, they shifted, right? So for the longest time, there was a debate on illegal immigration, on border security, on all this stuff. All of the ways that the left tried to make it sound like if you were in favor of border security, you were a racist or a xenophobe, you hated people that had different colored skin than you, and all this sort of stuff. And this works for a lot of against this can sway opinion. You really can't sway opinion. You can influence what people say their opinion is because they don't want to be lumped in and called a racist. Nobody wants that. And so they'll say, hey, look, I'll say whatever I have to say in order to just live peaceably, go about my business here. The problem is, my friends, the people who are running this country, the radical leftists, have weaponized that. So now, if you want to go along with them and play their games, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you your voice. By the way, we've been censored on TikTok. Now, I can't say to you that that's utterly surprising. Our account has been restricted or some such thing. I've done nothing to deserve that. But again, it's because they don't like conservative voices. A lot of conservatives have dealt with this very thing. They're dealing with it right now. It's one of the reasons why I come to you first and foremost over these radio airwaves, because radio airwaves are the last thing that's going to be censored here in our country. It's the hardest thing to censor. But they're coming for it. I mean, this is where the fairness doctrine comes in and all of that. But they want to silence conservative voices because the left cannot win in this open discourse. They can't win. And so they lost on the issue of illegal immigration. And so the next step after losing, after denying reality for all those years, after blaming people, Republicans, calling people racist, saying that you really can't secure the border, that these are people that are just looking for a better way of life. Listen, I believe that. I believe that the vast majority of people that come here are just looking for a better way of life. And my heart goes out to people whose lives are, they're living in these other countries where things are not good. The problem is that it is unsustainable for this country. It is putting an unnecessary burden upon you, upon the American taxpayer. I've said for a long time, if you look at if we were to, and maybe some think tank or researchers could do this, but if you want to look at the real cost of a government on you, how many decisions are you not even in a position to make because of circumstances controlled by our government. For example, when you run inflation to rates that they had run it under the previous administration, when you have regulated the economy to the degree to which it's been regulated, when you've increased bureaucracy to the level that it's been increased to, at some point, you realize that in and of itself has created a massive cost. If these DOGE discoveries with waste, fraud, and abuse are legitimate, as I believe that they are, but if these things turn out to, just be the tip of the iceberg, you think how many trillions of dollars are they stealing from the American people to fund their lavish lifestyles, their corruption? Sometimes it's just oversight and inefficiencies and just complete ineptitude, government doing things that it's not supposed to be doing. They don't have a competitive force that makes them be good at it. They can just do whatever they need to do without any recourse because there's no competitive force. There's no real risk of them losing their jobs. And it's comfortable. We got all these credit cards flying around out there with people in the federal government who have these open credit cards for massive amounts of credit limits that are put a risk on the American taxpayer. How many of those things, when you stack up the cost, when you look at the waste, fraud, and the abuse, when you look at the inflation, then you start to think, how does that impact your family? How does that impact the value of home costs, or what wages are, or whether you have to have both spouses, the mom and the dad, both working? Now, I'm not saying there's not some tough decisions that we all have to make from time to time. At some point, we have to say, I'm responsible for some of these things. But I also would be remiss if I didn't stop to say the choices made by our government have a direct impact on your quality of life. The decisions that you make, the decisions you don't even know that you have the choice to make because it seems so unrealistic because of excess burden placed upon you by our government to do something else that they have guilted you into doing. So going back to this headline, this fits perfectly into this because they told us, first they told us it couldn't be secured. Then they told us once they lost the issue in public, out there in public opinion, then they told us that they were securing the border. We just didn't know it yet. Then they began to tell us that if we really wanted it to be secured, we had to pass this piece of legislation that surprisingly had a bunch of other kickbacks and money out there spending that could benefit these politicians and their interests and so forth. But it turns out you have a new president. As Trump said in his not exactly State of the Union address, but for all intents and purposes, State of the Union address, when Trump came out there and said we were told we needed Congress to act, and reality told us that we only needed a new president. And that's exactly what we needed. That's exactly what we got. And now this problem is solved. Headline here, Trump secured border for only 0.2% of the cost of the border crisis. Media hypes cost of securing border, refuses to discuss the cost of open borders. So the point of this article is to say, look, they want to talk about how much money it costs to secure the border, which it does cost money to secure the border. However, the cost that this country was bearing, which you felt, which I just went through, that's where it hits the table. It's not just the kitchen table. It hits your life. It's not just some number that's on a piece of paper. Oh, the federal government spends $330 billion to secure the border. It's not just some arbitrary number somewhere. Those numbers impact you. So option one is you spend $330 million to secure the border, which we'll get into these stories here in this article in a second. But we spend as a country $330 million to get the progress that we've gotten up to this point. That's option one. Or option two is we have every year billions of dollars spent on the cost of illegal immigration. And the media never wants to talk about that. The media acts like there's no direct cost for illegal immigration. But my friends, we've seen this. We've seen this happen in cities. Cities like New York City. The cost of illegal immigration caused the city to have to adjust their budget. Mayor Eric Adams, who's no conservative, has been out there screaming about the cost of illegal immigration on his city because now he's having to deal with it. This is what happens, right? At some point, the chickens come home to roost. At some point, the federal government just can't print money and act like everything's hunky-dory apple pie. At some point, we're going to have to deal with the problem and with the cost. And it happens to be that the states and the cities are the ones who are going to bear the brunt of this, of open borders, because the federal government just prints money which means, of course, your dollar will be worth less, but they can hide that cost. States and cities can't do this. They have to provide services. They have to balance budgets, or they got to pay for it somehow. And so they're the ones that were screaming and have been screaming about the cost of illegal immigration. So headline here, the story here at Front Page Mag. The media has some big news. Southwest border mission has cost $330 million so far, with over $40 million for Guantanamo Bay alone. That's ABC News. Interesting. Let's even, for the moment, assume that those numbers are accurate. What was the cost of the border crisis? Exactly right, by the way. This is, again, an article at Front Page Mag. This will be in the stack of stuff, by the way. The House Budget Committee estimated the cost of the crisis at $150 billion. Others put it at over $200 billion or even higher. $330 million would be around 0.2% of $150 billion. Some estimates set the annual cost of illegal immigration at $150 billion as well. So put that $330 million into context. Under Biden, DHS allocated $380 million for migrant-infested areas through FEMA in August of 2024. We're spending a fraction of an ounce of prevention here to secure the border. The media hypes the cost of securing the border but refuses to discuss the cost of open borders. This is Daniel Greenfield at frontpagemag.com. Trump has saved this is another savings, another line item that DOJ is not going to have to deal with in the future, because the ongoing cost of illegal immigration, it is an ongoing cost. This says an estimated $150 billion a year. So we spent $330 million to get the results we have right now. And as a result, the payout, the return on that investment is $150 billion in savings a year. I have to take a break, my friends. Long in this segment. Back here in just a minute.
Tired of store-bought produce? Ever dreamed of growing your own healthy food but worried about space? Exo Hydroponics is a perfect solution. Exo Hydroponics is a family-owned business run by a mother and daughter team. Their innovative Exo Tower lets you grow up to 28 plants indoors or out, using less than 2 square feet. Visit exotowers.com today and start your journey to growing fresh organic food at home. That's exotowers.com.
Take the guesswork out of gourmet. Playhouse Spices gives you a leg up weapon in the kitchen. Playhouse Spices elevates your cooking with gourmet, handcrafted blends made with clean, healthy ingredients. Explore exciting flavors and become a masterful home chef. Visit playhousespices.com and use code TODD for 20% off your first order over $50. Playhouse Spices. Seek, explore, taste. That's playhousespices.com.
Hello, it's your favorite president telling Todd Huff listeners about Mega Milk Protein Powder. That's what we're calling it, Mega Milk. It's protein for patriots, okay? American-made Mega Milk destroys dad bods and builds a big, beautiful wall of mega muscle on your entire body. So true. Don't buy protein made in China. You'll be a total disaster, a weak loser. Your workouts are winning. Drink Mega Milk. Go to magamuscle.com and put some Trump in your pump. magamuscle.com.
Welcome back, my friends. So, final segment here. This is the first hour of the program. I want to take what we're talking about here. And I wanted to start here with this issue of illegal immigration and how much it's flipped on its head, because this is a microcosm of what the Democrat Party has created in this country. Now, I don't want to give a pass to the Republican Party, because there are plenty of Republicans that are still not prepared to do what really needs to be done in this country for a variety of reasons. Some look to their personal interests. Some don't have the strength of character or the resolve to fight. Others are just not that interested. It doesn't really matter to them. There's plenty of reasons as to why they're not really motivated to do the things necessary, but they're not the ones directly causing it. These leftists running the Democrat Party today are the ones who are causing this nonsense. And so I've started with illegal immigration. I've started with how the issue has been solved in a matter of weeks by Trump, and how the total cost is a minuscule, just a tiny fraction of how much this country will be saving each and every year, because the issue of illegal immigration is going to, the costs are going to be reduced as we begin to see less of a strain put on our system by illegal aliens crossing the southern border. And we have now people who are self-deporting. In fact, even as I referenced earlier in this program, paying coyotes to smuggle them back across the southern border out of America. It's a remarkable thing. I mean, this is a case study. This is a case study that shows anyone who's paying attention how dangerous the left's policies are, what they led to, the situations that they were responsible for, and then what we've seen happen under Trump in these, just 10 weeks now? It's just a matter of weeks. It is unbelievable that it's happened this quickly. And so this signals a larger problem within the Democrat Party. By the way, Democrat Party popularity or approval rating, I guess, is at 27%. Among independents, I think I saw it's 11%. And it's because of illegal immigration, but it's not just illegal immigration. It's for a whole plethora of issues that are absolutely unhinged and deranged, including the trans agenda, girls having to compete with biological males in girls' sports and all that sort of stuff. Gavin Newsom's out there saying the Democratic brand is toxic right now. He's right. I hesitate to say that because he's trying to position himself as a more moderate. He's obviously jockeying for the party's nomination for president here in 2028, and that very well may be what happened. I don't want to give the guy too much credit because he's looking for an opportunity here. I don't think the guy's has suddenly awakened to the problems created by the Democrat Party and the radical left's ideology. But he's a practical guy who's saying, look, we're going to have to recognize the mistakes that we've made as a party if we expect to be able to compete in 2026 in the midterms or in 2028 in the next presidential election. So that's where we're headed here, my friends, in the time that we have available, which is going to be mostly after the end of this hour because we're near the end of this segment here. But before I start wrapping up this hour, my friends, let me say to conservatives, it's time for us to take a stand with our wallets. That's why we created Freedom Marketplace here at the Todd Huff Show. It's a free directory of businesses that share your values and refuse to support leftist causes and leftist politicians. No logins, no gimmicks. It's just a simple way to connect with businesses that love America as much as you do. If you're tired of funding the whole woke agenda, head on over to freedommarketplace.net. It's free to join. It's easy. And it's a patriotic way to continue to help this country advance and to fight radical leftism. Liberty and business for all, my friends. All right, so time we have available here, I just have about a minute and a half. I guess I want to hit on this. This is related. Again, this was a Democrat talking point. Egg price, this is the dailywire.com. Egg prices plummet after Trump implements his 5-point plan. This is something that they were talking about here a couple of weeks ago, right? The left says, I thought egg prices were going to drop. The price of eggs. This was all over media. This was all over the internet. They were complaining about the price of eggs. They didn't care about the price of anything when Biden was running the country, but now that Trump was in office for a couple of weeks and egg prices skyrocketed primarily because of avian flu and a shortage of eggs, they wanted to blame Trump for this. What's he doing? I thought he was going to fix the economy day one. I thought he was going to walk in here and snap his fingers and the problem would be solved. Lots of problems with this. Number one, inflation is a phenomenon that's created by the federal government. We've gone through this at length on this program. I can't get into that right now. But not every time. Inflation always leads to cost increase. That is what inflation does. That's the effects of inflation. And inflation is the government creating excess money to pay for its wish list of things without having to raise taxes directly on Americans. That's what inflation is. But not every time prices go up does it mean that inflation is high, because that is not at all necessarily the same thing. There are other things that affect prices. For example, how many eggs are in the market. If there's not enough supply, the cost will rise. So the cost of eggs, wholesale cost, was over $8 back at the end of February. It's now, my friends, at $3. Now, it's not hit all retail shelves yet, but it is coming. Relief is in sight. Just wanted to hit that before I got to go, but I do have to go. SDG.
At FurnitureMadeInUSA.com, we provide beautiful chairs, rockers, stools, and tables handcrafted by skilled American artisans in North Carolina since 1924. With every purchase, you're supporting American businesses, American workers, and their families. Don't just buy furniture, invest in a piece of American history. Shop now at FurnitureMadeInUSA.com.
Shooters, hunters, and outdoor enthusiasts, Emax Tactical has you covered. We offer specialty, exotic, and vintage ammunition you won't find anywhere else. Plus, field medical kits and civilian legal training. Emax Tactical is passionate about helping customers find exactly what they need. 90% of orders go out the same day. Visit Emax Tactical online and use code TODD for 10% off your first order. Visit us at emaxtactical.com. EMACStactical.com.